Welcome to a virtual tour of the Great Migration, a celebration of Sandhill Cranes in Nebraska, on view at the Great Plains Art Museum through June 19, 2021. Cranes have claimed a special place in people's hearts for millennia. They are found in petroglyphs in Utah, in texts from ancient Greece and Rome, and have long been revered as a symbol of happiness and longevity in Asia. In March and April, Nebraska is a stopover place for over 1 million sandhill cranes, mostly along the Central Platte River. It is the largest gathering of cranes in the world and one of the most popular of all wildlife migrations. Thousands of people visit Nebraska to see these birds and to reconnect with nature. The Great Migration celebrates this annual wildlife spectacle and the unique lives of these elegant birds. The artist, Jude Martindale, uses several artistic styles to interpret her experiences with the cranes in ways that reveal not only their personalities, but also her emotional reactions to watching their captivating behaviors. Jude Martindale grew up in rural Nebraska and currently lives and paints in Lincoln. She received a bachelor's from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, studied portraiture at the Art Students League of New York, and earned a master's in scientific illustration from the University of Arizona. Her work has been shown nationally and internationally in solo and group exhibitions. Let's take a closer look at some of the artwork in the exhibition. Some crane behaviors have been around for millions of years. These birds are often portrayed as primordial, but they never stopped evolving and still push the limits of their physical capabilities. Challenging each other with their athleticism, jumping can be infectious as it spreads through the group. For Crane Fever No. 1, the artist applied textured gesso to create a fossilized effect, symbolizing the ancient lineage of modern cranes. Both sexes dance. It takes a lot of learning and practice for young birds to get good at it. Some basic dance moves are ubiquitous, but individuals add their own style and possibly unique moves. Cranes dance for several reasons. Sometimes for joy and practice, perhaps showing off for onlookers, and sometimes as provocation that can become aggressive. On the Platte River, we often see unmated birds trying out their courtship dancing as they look for compatible mates. Long-term pairs may also dance on the river with nuanced and synchronized moves developed from years of being together. Crane dancing looks like fun, but also reveals much about physical fitness and the ability to be a good mate. Sandhill cranes mate for life, and some live more than 20 years. Mates stay together year-round, keeping close to each other throughout migration, even as they fly or roost in large flocks. They recognize each other's calls and are highly stressed if they become separated, calling and searching until reunited. Synchronicity portrays the emotional strength of this pair bond. This life-size sandhill crane is showing off the size and condition of his wings and feathers. It is a display often used when a crane lands in a crowd or is in the midst of a restless group. It can be a threat, but also a dance move. The ruffled neck is part of the show. Crane dancing can include startling and unpredictable moves. This metaphorical painting symbolizes the colorful and sometimes outlandish breaks from normal bird behavior that are crane dances. Sandhill cranes nested in Nebraska until the early 20th century. The flying crane in the background of Prairie Dream is ethereal, commemorating this once common summer resident. In the fields and on the river, cranes make a sport of tossing objects as high as they can. They will grab corn cobs, clumps of algae, sticks, or whatever is close. Crane Tango is a fanciful take on what they would do if roses were available. Cranes are masters of body language, including facial expressions. The red crown is a patch of skin that changes in size and brightness to indicate interest or excitement. Unlike humans, cranes can see in the ultraviolet range, which affects how colors look to them. Who knows what it is like to see the world through the eyes of a crane? Sandhill cranes are one of a very few species of birds who purposefully paint their feathers a different color. In the breeding season, they use clumps of iron-rich clay or vegetation soaked in rust-colored water as a paintbrush. They stain their gray feathers brown for camouflage from predators. By the time the birds arrive in Nebraska, most of the brown feathers have been molted and replaced with the natural gray ones. But what if cranes had more colors available and camouflage wasn't an issue? True Colors answers that question. A preening bird with her feathers fluffed enjoys tranquility in the midst of a lively flock. Early morning fog on the Platte River made it impossible to see the birds, but they announced themselves with their voices as they called to each other. A truly mystical morning. The mid-continent population of sandhill cranes migrates from southern wintering grounds to nesting territories in Canada, Alaska, and Siberia. They stop in Nebraska to rest and replenish their fat stores before continuing. Unlike most birds, cranes fly during the day on migration and learn migration routes and food sources from their parents and other members of the flock. The unison call is a ritualized duet between mates. It is an affirmation of their status as companions and an announcement of their bond to all other birds within hearing distance. At times, tens of thousands of sandhill cranes fill stretches of the Platte River as far as the eye can see. These birds spend the night standing on sandbars in shallow water for protection from predators. The flock represents the masses of birds that may at first seem identical and anonymous. It captures a quiet early morning before some of the cranes begin to play, dance, and compete in aggressive contests. As we take a closer look at what individual birds do, we see a wide range of personalities and behaviors. Whooping cranes are the tallest birds in North America, larger than sandhills, and a brilliant white. They were hunted to virtual extinction for their feathers and used for fashion and quill pens. In 1940, only about 20 birds survived. Thanks to heroic conservation efforts, there are now over 500 wild descendants in the central flyway flock. They do not stay in Nebraska long as they migrate through, traveling solo or in small groups, so they are not often seen. Occasionally, though, whooping cranes join sandhills on the river. The whooper among us is showing the smaller sandhills what a real crane looks like. The population of sandhill cranes is stable and has been expanding, though hunting threatens to take more birds than the annual replacement rate. Nebraska is the only place in the central flyway that does not allow hunting of cranes. Until about 1900, much of the Midwest was covered in wetlands, the crane's primary habitat. Today, little is left of those rich food sources, and the birds survive mostly on leftover corn while they are here. The Platte River provides much less roosting area than in the past, so hundreds of thousands of birds squeeze into small parts of the river, especially in areas that have been restored to provide optimal habitat. The crowding is stressful, exhausting, and adds the risk of disease outbreaks. Conservation work is expanding suitable areas along the Platte River to provide more space for the flock. In Will the Crane Survive?, the disjointed blocks of land symbolize the fractured habitat on which cranes must now survive. Black bands are the diminished rivers and streams, while gold is hope for the future. The crane is portrayed in silver leaf. Depending on the lighting, the crane can appear to be lively or ghostly, reflecting her uncertain outlook as she surveys her surroundings. Avian perceptions and thoughts are of course different from ours, but their actions resonate with our sense of self and purpose. To know the cranes is to know of shared experiences, shared emotions, shared goals, to know that life's adventures are not ours alone. This self-portrait of the artist taking flight with a crane inspires us to strengthen our bonds with nature. Thank you for taking this virtual tour with us today. The Great Migration is on view at the Great Plains Art Museum until June 19th, 2021. Come visit us to see the artwork in person Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Learn more about how to visit safely at go.unl.edu/plainsart. You can also check out our website to download an exhibition guide for the show. Martindale illustrated the 2020 book Flying Free that showcases some of her crane art. Her crane cards, prints, and book are sold at the Crane Trust, International Crane Foundation, and Audubon's Rose Sanctuary to support their important work in crane conservation. Find out more about the artist and her work by visiting her website, judymartindalefineart.com.